It's no longer news that the base fare of most domestic carriers in Nigeria is now pegged at least 50,000 naira. Just recently, domestic operators gathered in Lagos, the commercial capital of the country, to publicly state the difficulties that they face in the course of their operations. Top on the list is the mounting cost of jet fuel, which accounts for about 40% of their daily operations. On this edition, our subject of interest is airline operations in the face of the rising cost of Jet A1. Thank you so much for joining us on Aviation This Week on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Joe Ketumbi. Our background report is next.
Air transport boosts productivity, facilitates world trade, promotes tourism, improves the efficiency of supply chains, and enables investment and labor supply both into and out of countries and regions. At the Murtala Mohammed Airport 2 in Lagos, the huge passenger traffic at the Yuletide has thinned out to give way to the low season in airline and travel parlors. Now, the terminals do not have as many travelers, but some say increase in fares by over 75% may have added to the leanness.
Previously, I got my tickets for about maybe 23,000 naira, but now I bought today's ticket for 51,000, and I think it's a ridiculous price because it's 100% increment. So I'm wondering if the common man will be able to afford to buy such expensive tickets.
The last time I flew to Enugu, I bought ticket for 30,000, and that was a year ago.
How much you bought today?
Today's ticket, I paid 50,000. That's about 20,000 increase.
For other passengers, operators must do away with incessant delays and cancellations.
If you have an airline that is defaulting and cancelling flights, it's just unfortunate. It's almost disrespectful to customers. You don't do that when if a lot of people have scheduled meetings and the rest. If you're delaying a person's flight, that means you don't have regard for whatever the person is. It's just they need to be penalized more.
There are some airlines that delay a lot and they don't show any sympathy for the passengers. So I try to avoid them. I go to Abuja almost every week or every other week at least. So I try to plan my journey in advance, but I think it's really not fair when they keep you waiting for a long time.
Away from the departure hall to this conference, where airline operators are stating the issues that stare their operations in the face despite the lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The list include poor airport infrastructure, bad weather, airport-prone congestion, with forex challenges a critical component.
The business of commercial aviation is done or is carried out under the premise of the dollar. Yet, we make our money in our local currency, naira. The forex has gone from 340 naira now to about 585 to even 600 to a dollar. Yet, everything we need as airlines to operate safely come from abroad. We must procure this dollar under the weight of forex challenges. And unless something is done as quickly as possible, airlines might be forced to close shop.
The supply and rising cost of Jet A1 tops the list prior to now. Many of the domestic airlines had a different furor raised alarm over the constant increase in the cost of the commodity, which takes over 40% of their operational costs.
The price of Jet A1 fuel and its also lack of prompt availability is causing problems for all the airlines. Jet A1 pricing has gone from 190 naira to a liter to about 430 naira now. That is over 100% increase. Yet, the lots of these airlines have not improved. Sometimes, this product is not even available. We call on government to help us look into the availability and the pricing of this Jet A1 fuel.
Aviation fuel, also known as Jet A1, being a deregulated product, has had the price consistently fluctuating along with Naira to dollar exchange rate. It sold at 190 Naira a litre in February 2022. Airline business is the live wire of the entire aviation value chain, and it's important for authorities to provide an environment that is business friendly.
It varies, and it depends on their frequency, their route, their frequency of that route, and also the type of aircraft, and also the passenger load factor of the aircraft. So basically, it may be difficult to say this is what an airline will take, but the projection we make is such that, for example, an average local domestic airline or aircraft, when they get to any airfield, they take an average of 5,000 liters to be able to move to next point. And you can be sure that there are some aircraft that will do Lagos, Abuja, Lagos, maybe like 3-4 times in a day. So, but as an industry sector, we supply per annum comes to maybe close to about 750 million liters. Generally speaking, the price or the cost of Jet A1 forms a bulk of their cost, which usually is about a third of it. So, but there are so many reasons why the cost is increasing of late. All our pricing is never done in any arbitrary manner, but it is done based on conforming with global best practice. We predicate our monthly pricing on the prices of, jet fuel traded everywhere in the world on the months before. So we take average of the months before to be able to do the pricing of the new one for those customers who are on formula pricing. So everybody knows, what the publications are. And we only had the tax, which is the fuel surcharge we pay to federal government through FAN, and also the premium, which is the logistics of our bringing in the product plus a margin. So, everything is pretty open. As of today, as I speak to you, is over $900. So, which means even product that you could bring out for $414 last month, you cannot bring it for less than $460 as of today. So that's even the purchase. We've not added the logistics of bringing it to the sea, outbound Nigeria, or even like me with the daughter vessel, bringing it inside, to the marine terminal. Then you now start the journey to start accruing cost, from the marine terminal, even to the wing of aircraft, the loading cost, the transport cost to the airfield storage, the cost of keeping it inside the airfield storage, the insurance that you have on it, both goods in transit insurance, fire and peril, and also up to the ground refueling liability insurance while you are fueling the aircraft, apart from even the cost of interplane. So all these costs, if you look at them, they come, as a bulk pack that there is actually no company that can achieve, any good process without, accruing as much as 17 Naira on a liter. So on this, have a refinery working, or if you have refinery that are able to crack jet fuel, then we don't need to, be looking for dollar to take out there to go and buy. And that will also reduce pressure on, our own trade as a country. So I feel if we, have a refinery that is working, that probably may put paid to that aspect. That's Nigeria with over 200 million population. We have less than 15% traveling public, while we have countries like Hong Kong that even have more than 100% of their population as traveling public. I want to believe that the airlines in Nigeria are not even are not charging arbitrarily for what they are charging, because sometimes I pity some of these airlines when I see, passenger occupancy of some flights that I may even get into, and I wonder how they will break even, because I can use my head, on top of my head, to calculate how much cost they will have incurred on such. So I think that, we, as much as we want to recruit as many people from the road orbit into the flying orbit, it wouldn't be at the expense of the airlines. They would need to do the business and make profit out of it. So I really feel, for an hour flight, I don't think it should be less than the equivalent of $100 under any guise.
In the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, 9 scheduled domestic airlines operated 14,662 flights with 7,554 delayed flights, 149 cancelled flights, 18 air return. Airline authorities say disruptions are not in their best interest. While traveling by air is now a necessity owing to the state of insecurity, passengers are quick to say that local carriers do not pay attention to their customers. Many are even oblivious of the Passenger Bill of Rights.
I don't feel work in Nigeria because several times.
Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know if they exist. This is the first time.
The Nigerian Civil Aviation Regulations Part 19 deals with passengers' rights and airlines' obligations to passengers. The part addresses consumer protection issues and sets out compensation for overbooking and denied boarding, as well as delays and cancellation of flights. Traveling by air or using air transport services confers certain rights, but it also comes with some responsibilities. Among the main ones are the right to the full value for your money, the right to compensation for flight cancellation, delays, damaged, lost baggage, and denied boarding for reasons other than technical, weather conditions, air traffic control restrictions, security risks, and industrial disputes that affect the operation of the flight. The right to book and confirm tickets with an airline of your choice, the right to the provision of a conducive airport environment before, during, and after flights, the right to seek redress for all irregularities during your flight, the right to timely feedback in respect of matters, complaints lodged with service providers. While this is the content of the regulations, some passengers say this exists only on paper.
I think here in Nigeria, the passenger's right is being infringed, because in the situation whereby sometimes your flight will be cancelled just at the height of taking up. You left your house after, you know how Lagos is. After being in the traffic for quite a long time, you come to the airport only maybe on the road. A few minutes to the take-up, you discover that your flight has been delayed for like hours. The customer care of any airline, if you want to call, you discover that. I think the last one I called, they were able to reject my calls. So there was not any response.
The regulation stipulates every passenger has a right to be informed of the reason for a delay within 30 minutes after departure time. When the delay lasts for 2 hours, the passenger is entitled to refreshment, and where the delay lasts for 3 hours, the passenger is entitled to a reimbursement. A passenger is also entitled to transport and hotel accommodation where delay falls between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m.
The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority and the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission have been reacting to the recent increase in the price of airfares by airlines. The Airline Operators of Nigeria earlier denied the allegation of collusion to increase fares after criticism trailed their action. The FCCPC said the sudden price increase by the airlines looked coordinated regardless of the argument by the carriers. In defense, the Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Captain Musa Nuhu, stated that operators in the industry are facing difficult times. He added that apart from issues that emanated from the COVID-19 pandemic, the industry is faced with challenges that are outside the purview of the regulatory agency and have significantly impacted the sector. He further said the increase in the cost of fuel and foreign exchange have a direct impact on the industry. Still on Newsflash, this time in Australia, where its national carrier Qantas Airways said the reopening of Australia's internal and external borders has significantly boosted its outlook, although the Omicron COVID-19 outbreak has set its business recovery plans back by around 6 months.
We then thought in November things were looking up, international was starting, and we would have domestic peak in the Christmas period. Omicron hit, and Omicron's cost us $650 million. So it's been a roller coaster of expectations. But where we are now, I think we are very optimistic because we have one of the most highly vaccinated population in the world.
Qantas had earlier posted a $925.6 million first half underlying loss before tax in the 6 months ended December 31, 2021. The airline also flagged a 650 million Australian dollars earnings hit from Omicron in the second half.
And a statutory loss before tax of 622 million. It is the fourth statutory half-year loss in a row as we continue to deal with the twists and turns of COVID.
Qantas had by early December recorded by 11,000 staff who had been idled without pay during the pandemic. But the surprise arrival of the Omicron variant, which pushed Australian COVID cases to record levels, dented demand and forced the airline to cut domestic and international capacity plans. Australia on February the 21st opened its international border to fully vaccinated travellers from all countries, the last step in a staged border reopening that began in November internally. Western Australia will be the final state to open on March the 3rd. Now to the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, as airspace closures triggered by the crisis is exerting adverse influence on civil aviation worldwide by raising operation costs of airlines and placing more economic pressure on passengers. Russia has closed its airspace for planes from Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania and Slovenia, including transit flights, as countermeasure against the unfriendly action of the aviation authority of these countries in the wake of Russia's special military operation in Ukraine. Some European countries, including Britain, Bulgaria, the Czech Republic and Poland, have also decided to close their airspace to Russia. According to an industry insider, the Russian airspace serves as an important cross-Arctic passage that connects Europe and Asia, North America and Asia, which is the most time-saving route to fly over the Arctic. The adverse effect would also affect large quantities of anti-COVID-19 pandemic materials being sent through air routes from Asia to Europe and America, and the closure of airspace means longer flight time for cargo planes and higher logistic costs. Greece has also joined a number of European nations in closing its airspace for all Russian aircraft in line with the European Union decision. Europe and Canada have also shut their airspace to Russian aircraft, an unprecedented step aimed at pressuring President Vladimir Putin to end his invasion of Ukraine, the biggest attack on a European state since World War II. Aeroflot said it will cancel all flights to European destinations after EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell said the European Union has decided to close its airspace to Russian traffic. The United States is considering similar action but has yet to make a final decision. The ban on Russian jets comes as the airline industry continues to grapple with the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic that is still undermining global demand for travel. Still on the crisis, as Israeli students who fled from Ukraine have landed in Israel on Tuesday, March the 1st, reuniting with loved ones. The flight, which arrived from Romania, carried 150 Israeli Arab students, some of whom traveled with their pets. Israel had stationed representatives at border crossings with Poland, Hungary and Romania to help evacuate citizens and Jews.
The trip was so difficult.
About 400,000 citizens have left Ukraine, but thousands more remain. Meanwhile, 180,000 Jews are also eligible to immigrate to Israel based on the law of return. Also on Tuesday, Israel began sending 3 planes carrying 100 tons of humanitarian aid to Ukraine, including medical equipment, tents and coats.
It's flying by itself. Okay, so you're engine 2-5.
This aviation school is hopeful of a surge in enrollments as demand for air travel resumes. With planes put in storage and airports literally closed, Alpha Aviation Group, a pilot training school which has hubs in the UK and the Middle East, also faced challenges. At their largest training hub in Southeast Asia, which lies in Pampanga province of the Central Philippines, over 100 students have enrolled this year. In previous years, they had more than 300. The student numbers are still low, but the school says it expects more cadets to sign up in coming months as the outlook on travel resumptions become clearer. The school is preparing to add more training facilities over the next 2 years to accommodate this expected demand. Since 2020, thousands of commercial pilots have either retired, been laid off or sought other career opportunities as the pandemic grounded planes.
I would say it's really devastating. No? The pandemic, it ended a lot of careers initially for the regular pilots, and also, of course, I'm sure I would share the shattered dreams of those cadets who are looking forward for a progressive career in aviation.
Despite the uncertainties, 22-year-old Kasey Abdillah is determined to finish the course and get her license.
With the pandemic, I think everyone, there's this wake-up call na everything is uncertain. To me, there isn't really a perfect timing to do everything. Sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith with the right amount of courage, hard work, and hope for the best.
We are now putting together a mentorship program composed of senior simulator flight instructors who will be coaching and mentoring these cadet pilots, giving them, an idea of what's happening globally, what's happening in the industry, the sweet spots now, when is the industry going to recover, what can you expect out of an industry in recovery. So right now, we always say the best time to train is now, because experts will definitely tell you that there's no other way for the industry but to rebound.
This is one of our 2
The school's full-motion Airbus flight simulators are running all day now, getting the trainee pilots ready for real-world scenarios. First-year student Mikael Francisco just hopes that he can get a job in the industry. A 2-year pilot course costs around $80,000. Tuition prices haven't fallen during the pandemic.
And this is all we have for you on the program. Remember, aviation remains the safest form of transportation. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi and saying goodbye from the Murtala Mohammed Airport 2 in Lagos.